It would have been like, well, what movie am I watching here?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what's really supposed to be happening? But apparently the original script was a more serious film, and it dealt with PTSD and revenge, where he was he just like preys on another family, just a random family. I don't know if that would have really worked that great, but
because this one's not I'm not saying those movies aren't wrong, but this one wasn't preachy. It was more of like a creature feature, not a creature feature, but it was like if Universal Soldier, if Jean-Claude, like, because there's a thing where, like, this is like Universal Soldier. Jean-Claude Van Damme started to kill people once they found out who he was. It's just, it's a super soldier running amok. And I thought that was, I don't know, I dug it. Another question. I really like that gunfight when Lance Reddick shows up with the gunman. And they almost ran out of bullets that day, which I think is pretty funny. They didn't know how many blanks they were supposed to use.
Oh my gosh.
That opening scene with the laundry. Blowing in the wind.
And then he sees
the slow motion on him.
Oh, that was beautiful. He drops the basket, pulls out the terrible, I don't know what gun it was, but then he just starts opening fire on them. And then he jumps into the house. And I was showing this movie, I showed it to my girlfriend like last week, 2 weeks ago. I showed it to her, and she was just like, How did he survive all those bullets? Because that house is Swiss cheese. I was just like, well, it's movie magic, like not everything is real, but like everything with that scene, and just like the guy jumps in, pow, shoots the guy in the foot, and shoots him in the head. Oh my lord.
Very John Woo, hard-boiled The Killer type stuff, where he slides out from under the bed and headshots. And that's what they wanted. They're like, we wanted to do a slow motion John Woo moment. So that's why
that would have been great for they both pull guns on each other. That would have been
shooting at each other through the wall, like running together. A neat thing is the guy who did their production design is a really crafty dude, and a lot of the stuff they shot in the house, and then they shot that first, and then they redressed the house. So
what? They shot the shootout scene first?
Yeah, so then they could redress the house, so they didn't have to do it again. And that scene where he's running along the wall and they're shooting it up, they actually did that on a stage. Because the production designer's like, it's smarter to do that. We have this one long shot and we can control it with a dolly. So when you watch that scene along the wall, it's like a nice dolly shot. Yeah. So that's why because you couldn't do that in a house.
Absolutely not.
So I really thought that was a smart idea by the production designer just to do a really cool dolly shot on that wall. And when you watch it, you'll see that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misinterpreted what you said. I thought you said they shot up the house and then they rebuilt the house.
Oh, no.
I was like, what?
They put fake walls in.
That's completely impractical.
Yeah, they put fake walls in. And then they shot all the fake walls and they took them out. Then they shot everything in that house because they didn't have a budget to build it all on stage. Because like Transcendence and everything were taking up everything.
God. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then, I don't know, but let's see. Also, another thing I want to talk about is the gun scene with Ethan Embry. So that guy looks at him and goes like, hey man, I really appreciate what you do. He's like, well, you don't appreciate enough to join up. And
that's a great scene. And he's like, why don't you sign up?
Yeah, Joel David Moore from like Avatar.
Oh yeah.
He's in it. But then, so he goes to buy guns from Ethan Embry. And I don't know if you've watched it, but Ethan Embry was in Cheap Thrills, one of my favorite movies from 2014.
I didn't. I remember you telling me about this.
Brilliant film.
He also did The Revenant. Which, not the one with Leonardo DiCaprio, but before that, there was a movie about a guy who, I think he's in Iraq or Afghanistan. He dies. He comes back as a zombie. It's scary, but at the same time, really good. Huh. He's also in that. That's a really good movie. And if you haven't seen that,
Devil's Candy too, which is on Netflix. I don't know if you watched it.
I was gonna watch it. Actually.
He plays like a rocker painter in there with a lot of heart. So he's really doing a pretty great comeback. Not a comeback, but he's always been acting. He's not. I mean, he was Can't Hardly Wait and That Thing You Do and Empire Records. He was like the squirrely guy. Now he's become like the badass.
I never liked Empire Records.
Oh, really?
I never liked it. And that's what people don't understand when they say, why don't you like that? I'm like, because they already made that movie. It was called Clerks.
Yeah.
And it came out right before that one did. And then Empire Records came out and it was like, I couldn't do it. And then I remember at the time when it came out, people were going, what? This is Clerks. It's just a Kevin Smith ripoff. And of course, everybody now, it's been like, 2 decades. So everyone goes, oh my God, Empire Records is the coolest thing ever. You're like, no.
It's fun. I like watching it. Like, I like all the characters involved, and I like Ethan Embry. I mean, it's very based in Clerks. And
it's in the Clerks world.
Not like Reservoir Dogs dialogue, but that kind of stylistic dialogue.
It was very much of the time where everybody was trying to rip off, they were, I guess they call it homaging now, but at the time they were ripping off Tarantino and Kevin Smith, because every movie that came out in the mid to late 90s was like that. I mean, you had, what was the movies? Love in a 45.
Oh, yeah.
What to Do in Denver When You're Dead.
Oh,
Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Yeah. California.
Pool Hall Junkies.
Oh, gosh, I forgot about that movie. Yeah. But all those movies came out around the same time, and then they were like, we're going to need to do teenage angst movies, and because the 80s happened, and that was Molly Ringwald and John Hughes. But now we have a new version, which is more grunge, and now we got to do
Reality Bites.
Reality Bites. Well, they even had a TV show, 30 something.
Yeah,
which take it or leave it.
They had the show Flannel. But I guess one thing I like about this movie is we actually the podcast before this was Quantum of Solace, and that's like my least favorite Bond film. But I like how there's no bits in it, and it's not like there's no gimmicks in it. It's just straightforward. And I like this one too because they could have tried to rip off Halloween or the Terminator.
There could have been a lot of scenes that could have homaged or ripped off.
Yeah, but this movie,
it was very straight shooting.
I guess it does like to have the John Woo stuff, but it's a very straightforward movie.
Oh, yeah,
I like how it goes. It goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I like that a lot. Like, they could have really made this much more stylish or much more showcasey, but it's not.
Yeah, and it's not showing off. It's very nitty-gritty as well.
And I like that we were talking about this earlier. Leland Orser's in this movie.
Oh, gosh, he had a hell of a year. 2014 was so good for him. I mean, he right after this came It Follows, and then Faults.
Oh, with Leland in it?
Oh, I'm sorry. He was not in It Follows. The Gambler.
Gambler.
My handwriting looks like a ransom note.
Help.
But he killed it. And then he did Taken 3 as well.
I mean, like, he was in all 3 Taken movies. Like, he was in, like, 7, Daredevil, Taken, Saving Private Ryan, Berlin Station. Oh, that TV show Berlin Station. He was in Ray Donovan for a long time. The Gambler, 24, ER, Runaway Jury, Pearl Harbor, The Bone Collector, Alien Resurrection. So, when I saw him in this, I've been watching him for 20 years. And I never knew who he was. I never knew his name. And so now I'm like, hey, Leland Orser. Like, and in this movie, Maika was very serious. So she had to like kind of play this role. But they didn't really allow much improv on set because they wanted to keep the script tight and also the production moving fast. Because like improv can really hurt blocking and all that kind of stuff.
I can imagine that bar fight scene would be like 2 weeks long then.
Yeah. So they just let Leland kind of go off. And everyone's a little annoyed. They're like, why does Leland get to do this?
You're like, well, have you seen Faults?
Yeah.
It's a great movie. I haven't seen it.
I just love that they kind of let him go off, Leland Orser, in this. I thought that was pretty neat.
He has some great lines of dialogue, especially like when he's talking about, when he comes home and the wife is like, well, honey, he's like, I don't care. I need a drink. Yeah. It seems like he should have had like a different line of dialogue. Yeah. But he just kind of walks past her and like, it's like, pump the brakes, honey. And just goes right to the booze and he's like, well, my boss died. It's it seems like there should have been something else there, but it was great.
I'd love to go visit him because he's always offering beer or whiskey to people. It's like 9:00 in the morning. Hey, Mark, you want a beer? I'm on vacation, sure. So they just sit around drinking. Like he's always just down in beers with people, like kind of hanging out. And he's not, if you think about him as a dad, he's not that bad of a dad.
He's a very good provider, and he's very serious about like wanting to move forward with his career. Mm-hmm. The only thing that was stopping him was the 24-year-old with the college degree, and then David walks into their lives and look who's the boss now?
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of interesting. You really like these people, and at the end when David kind of switches, when people learn his identity, and then he has to kill everyone.
You still kind of like him.
Yeah. But you also feel bad when he kills the mom. Like, the mom gets killed. She's super nice. And then Leland, they get into a car wreck with Leland, then he just shoots him in the chest. And you're like, what?
Yeah, like, why did he do that? And it's like, well, those were the loose ends.
Yeah, he knew his identity.
My girlfriend pointed out, she goes, did he really need to kill the mom? And I was like, well, he did. I mean, it's as terrible as that scene is, because he knifes her. Yeah. I mean, she gets the worst out of all of them. I mean, everybody gets shot. That's a quick death. I mean, she really has to sit there with this knife in her, and it's like, oh, come on! Like, why didn't you like? But
could have made it quicker.
He could have done that. I mean, she was a likable person. She didn't do anything wrong. She wasn't like she didn't make him go out and do anything. Like, she never said anything was wrong with her life.
I like the scenes where she's just chilling with Maika Monroe. Like, they come home and they're just sitting on the couch reading magazines together. Like, that's a cool touch. Like, it felt like a lived-in home.
Yeah, they looked like a real family. They acted like a real family.
Like, these movies. I don't want to hate on them, but like, you have these broken families, but they never come across as a real family. They just come across as actors kind of playing a broken family.
No, I know what you mean.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes complete sense. Kind of like with Nip Tuck, where they, the two characters, they become meth heads later on in the series. And it's like, I don't buy them as meth heads for one thing, because they're ridiculously gorgeous. And then And then they're like, we have a family together. And it's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe that for a minute.
I want to do an article about the most ripped alcoholics of cinema. You have these characters who just...
Earl Flynn.
Or you have like, in that movie, The Meg, Jason Statham drinks 40
Lord.
beers a day, but he's like ripped out of his mind. Or Daniel Wu in Tomb Raider. I want to like fictional, like
Bill Paxton in Club Dread.
Yeah, in these fictional worlds, like they're still like really skinny, so they must drink super light beer, or their metabolisms in cinema are just unheard of.
Well, every time they do one curl, they're doing 50 sit-ups at the same time. They're sitting there, get the
push up. For every beer, you have to do 50 push-ups and 50 sit-ups. Statham's just in the bar. I'll be right back.
I love the movie The Meg.
Yeah.
And then whenever I saw it based off of your podcast, and I was like, oh my God, I got to see this movie.
He's got the shark.
It's like, name one movie where the shark comes flying out of the ocean with Jason Statham strapped to the nose, stabbing it in the eye, screaming at the same time.
Yeah.
You can't. So that means you have to see this movie.
What else did you want to touch? I know you had a couple other things you wanted to touch on this movie. Anything else that you wanted to cover?
Well, I mean, 2014 was a really great year in general for these types of films. That kind of like sparked the whole art house horror films that we started to see. With the Babadook. Then I think that came out shortly after or shortly before this, but it didn't hit America until after this movie came out.
Yeah, Babadook was 2014. The Sacrament was 2014. Then you had Tusk. I actually love that movie, Tusk.
I was great with that movie until you see the monster, and I was like, I can't do it. This movie was terrible. He's like, I was trying to do what Tarantino did, and it's like, but you're Kevin Smith. You don't have to be Tarantino.
Girl Walks Home Alone.
That movie was so good.
Dead Snow came out. Yeah, so 2014. Jezebel, 2014, and then it led into 2015. Oh, Housebound was 2014, 90%.
Yeah, that was a great horror comedy. I was not expecting to like that.
Starry Eyes in 2014. I don't know, in 2015, that's like when movies, films, and flicks first hit big, because I caught on to the indie horror thing that was blowing up.
The art house horror started becoming an actual thing at that point, because I'm assuming that no one really thought these were going to be hits. I mean, The Guest wasn't a hit at all. I mean, if you're looking at the box office, it was a $5 million budget and it grossed $332,000.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really, they weren't really hits, but people started liking them after they got on streaming services, so they could now sell these. I think the first probably big hit was probably The Witch. Or Babadook may have been. I can't remember.
Yeah, that didn't get released in the theaters.
I saw it in the theaters, actually.
Oh, you saw Babadook?
They played it at the Plaza. Kind of a funny story. When it first came out, I was on a date with a girl, and it was our second date. And
she said
Babadook? I took her to go see it because she said she wanted to go. Because I always talk about movies, so she said, "Well, let's go see a movie." And I was like, "Sure." I was like, "This is the movie I wanted to see, The Babadook." And she was like, "I don't like horror films, but it has a drama feel to it, so I'll see it anyways." As soon as we walked out of the theater, she goes, don't take this to heart, but I'm not going to see you a third time.
Because, I mean, that movie's pretty much, it's just about a mother and her son and kind of coping.
I mean, think about it. It's really, it's a coping film. It could be a lighthearted comedy if you think about it.
And then, also, What We Do in the Shadows was 2014. Bone Tomahawk was 2015. Also, It Follows came out. That got a wide release. And then 2016 was The Witch. Creep was 2014. Backcountry was 2014. So this was the time where these movies were Goodnight Mommy 2014.
What did you think of Goodnight Mommy?
Stupid.
I was great up until you knew what the ending was. And it's like, oh, come on. Like, that's the big shock. And it's like, oh, come on. Yeah. We knew it from like but I mean, the close-up shots and the tension of like them cutting the mom. And I was like, okay, that was very well done. But I was like, okay, I bet that the kid, spoiler alert, I bet the kid's actually dead and mom has been beaten up before and now she's back and they're convincing themselves that this isn't mom, and it's like, oh, yep, well, there you go. So.
It was very well made, acted well, shot well.
They're really proud of it.
Production design was really well. But it just felt so stylish and kind of flat and artistic.
It was very much like, people, they were showing off. They were like, look how slick and cool we can be. And it's like, they were really proud of that movie. It was a German film, right?
No, it was
Austrian.
Yeah, Austrian.
They were really proud of that movie, so much so that they actually put it in for the best foreign film for the Academy Awards. It's like, no surprise it didn't go anywhere. But then again, so did The Shape of Water won Best Picture, and Lord knows why.
Yeah. We'll look up for that. We did a podcast about it. Listen to the podcast, and then you can
The Shape of Water?
Yeah, no, we did one about Goodnight Mommy. on there, so you can see what countries it's made. I don't want to research while we're talking on this.
Yeah.
But this was like, this, it follows at the theaters, which was 2016 or 2016, I believe, or late 2015, The Witch. So this is really part of the kind of art house.
It was. This kind of like kickstarted it. It was the whole thing. I mean, of course, Your Next came out first, but